Very good morning to you, and welcome to my Core Finance interview. And today I'm absolutely delighted to welcome back Giles Clark, who's the chairman of Amerisur Resources. Welcome back, Giles. Nice to see you again.
Thank you very much, Rodney.
I think the best bet, there will be people who don't know that much about Amerisur. We'll get into the meat and drink in a few minutes. But if you could start off by sort of familiarising ourselves with what Amerisur looks like, sort of top down. That'd be great.
We're the only UK quoted company, E&P, operating in Colombia and Ecuador. We've got 12 blocks, about 984,000 hectares of resource opportunity, and we have approximately 1,408 million barrels of unrisked resources, and we have a pipeline that operates under the Putumayo River in central Colombia, or South Colombia, and goes into the Ecuadorian system out to the Pacific.
Good. I'd like to come back to the OBA pipeline a bit later on, if I may. But first of all, there's been a lot going on in Colombia in the last year or so. Maybe it's a good idea to update us.
I think that's
2017 was very busy, wasn't it?
It was. It was a very, very major year. Colombia's had a civil war for 50 years going on, which reached a sort of apogee in the 1990s and slowly began to wind down as everybody became exhausted. And a peace agreement was reached between the government. In fact, it's been reached with the government and two of the principal guerrilla groups. And we're now in the process known as La Paz. And that is involving the guerrilla being disarmed, a national-wide program of going through what happened, and an attempt to create some reconciliation, whilst at the same time an eradication program for removing the cocoa plantations where cocaine is grown. That involves compensating farmers for that. Amerisur operates in the Putumayo region. We've been there for 10 years, which is a big province, a big oil basin in the south of Colombia, adjoining close to the Ecuadorian border. It's a remote distance from Bogota, and it has been a fairly lawless area. So the peace process, which is covering the whole of the country, it's obviously not easy. The Colombians compare it to Northern Ireland. I think that's slightly different, but the general principle is the same, that men have to give up guns and they have to be reintegrated into society, and also they've got to stop doing the things that were illegal that they were using to generate income.
Indeed. So a lot of change, but generally we look to this year and forward for the better.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot better stuff.
Your CEO, John Wardle, very kindly came in last summer, and he painted a positive picture with the situation in Colombia as well. Why don't you tell us what's happened since then in terms of drilling and so on?
We've drilled 3 wells since then, and we've seen a consistent rise in our production. We're a business that's ending the year at 7,000 barrels per day being exported out of down our pipeline into Ecuador. Amerisur has a highly effective operating cost base. So at $65, which where the market might be at the moment, because we sell at just small discount to Brent, our net operating return is $49. Obviously, we budgeted for the whole year at $45 for our oil, so giving us $29. So obviously, if we continue at where we are, at $49 a barrel net, it's at 7,000 barrels a day at the moment. And moving forwards, that's a fairly attractive, profitable activity.
Good. I'd like to move forward now and talk about the plans, the number of wells that you plan to drill. The last time I saw it, it was something like 16 wells over the course of the year, which is a pretty aggressive and ambitious program. Within that, there are one or two, particular features. Obviously, we're all looking to see the end sands being drilled. So, what's the plan in terms of wells to be drilled from now on?
We said we expected to drill 16 from early November. We've drilled 4. So we expect 12 wells in the calendar year at the moment. Of those, as you correctly state, the N sands is a big development for us. It's the northern part of our Platanillo block, which has been particularly successful for us so far. We see the N sands as having some really quite significant amounts of oil, and John has consistently stated he saw it was going to have as much as we've seen already in the block, if not more. And we have that program which will involve us doing some civil works further north, which discussions we're now well down the road with the Colombians on. And we're intending to drill in our CPO-5 block, our second well, which is called Indico. We drilled a well, and this is in the Llanos, and it adjoins Llanos Block 34, LL34, where both Parex and Geopark have had enormous success. And the continuation of those sands, the uni sands, we see as having really very, very major opportunities. We've said that we see a continuation of the Llanos 34 down to the LS3 trap, and I think that's going to be the Indico well will demonstrate that even further. Mariposa, which is the first well we drilled, we've stated that it's been running at 3,000 barrels a day, and we think we can increase that quite reasonably. And so we're very optimistic about Indico. There have been some very optimistic valuations of the block so far by a couple of analysts, because we're partners with ONGC in it.
Yeah.
It's the only block we do that. And we'll see, but there's a general belief that's going to be a very successful area for us.
Good. I was going to come back to that later on, but I might as well just finish up on CPA-5 before we move on to the production and so on. But so the bottom line is that you're happy. I mean, CPA-5 was got through an acquisition, wasn't it?
Correct.
And it's probably turned out better than you might have expected. If the second well is as good as people think it might be, I mean, is there any thought that if ONGC would prefer to clear you out of the place, or are you going to hang fire and hold on for?
There's no doubt that because of the excitement generated by Llanos 34, there are a lot of people very, very interested in what might come out of Indico. Certainly, ONGC are extremely interested by it. They're very proud of the discovery at Mariposa. From our point of view, you have a block like that is not part of our core area, and it doesn't go through our pipeline. And our big focus this year is to massively increase our success in the area that we can push, where we can put oil down the pipeline. So for that isn't so in CPO-5. So it's eminently possible people may make proposals to us. If Indigo is very successful, then I think there's going to be a lot of interest in that block.
ONGC aren't the fastest operators in the West, are they? So
No.
presumably this is taking a little longer than they would if
Yeah, they
Mr.
move
Wardle was running it.
Yeah, that's true, but they move at their own pace. But it does help that I'm very, very familiar with India, and I know a lot of people who are legally the owners of the shares in
And you speak the
ONGC.
language,
And I
don't you?
speak the language, exactly.
Before I go on to production, can I just finish? The N sands well, therefore, will be second half of the year.
No, we hope to have a couple of wells in the first half of this year.
Excellent. Production, just briefly, you went through 7,000 barrels a day at the end of last year. If my memory serves me correctly, your medium-term target is 12,000 and the longer target is 20,000.
Correct.
Are those targets still very much on track?
Yep, John's very much targeted to 12 and 20. And we see the key thing about the N sands is, as we've said, we see the N sands as being around 20 degrees API and significant. And we can blend that with the 30 degrees, 31 degrees that we currently get in the rest of Platanillo from the U sands in our big tanks by the exit, so we can send 25 degrees down the pipeline to Ecuador. And the work we've been doing in Ecuador to help the Ecuadorians increase the rate of flow in the Oba and indeed in the whole pipeline out of Ecuador is really beginning to sort of take quite a lot of movement. We're encouraged by the way the Ecuadorian government's approaching the whole thing. Both Petroamazonas and the government have been very positive. We're involved in investing to help improve the speed of flow. I'm going to see the president of Ecuador next month, and I hope we'll conclude some good agreements. And for us, Ecuador is becoming not just as a place we pump oil, but and utilize their system, but there's also the opportunities that are arising as they open up the industry and the current fields and the opportunities in new fields in Ecuador.
Good. Now, I was obviously going to ask a number of questions about the ABA. You've answered some of them already. I mean, you were fundamentally involved in the high-level discussions about the ABA. And so the current status is slightly confusing to people because the story was, to begin with, it would have a 50,000 barrels a day potential throughput number, that you would put all of the Amerisur, pretty much with the exception of the north, all the Amerisur oil through that and through the system on the other side of the river. And you would also have potential third-party oil which you could put through there at a tariff. So where do we lie? I mean, you sort of said that on the Ecuador side, that's the problem for getting the throughput up. I mean, 7,000 or 8,000 or 7,000 barrels a day was the sort of peak in December, wasn't it?
That's right.
Is that going to be a restricted level for a while because of Ecuador? Or?
No. The most important thing for us is the installation of a new pumping station in a little place called Chiriza. And that is a critical aspect, because we can then increase the production from our side, the flow from our side. We believe that the NSANs will bring up our production significantly as we move towards our 12,000 barrels a day target. And the importance of having modern valves and modern pumps in the Ecuadorian system, and this is a system which at its peak was moving 660,000 barrels a day, but hadn't had a lot of investment in it to maintain it and build it up, and we're coming in, as it were, from a spur on the side. So the pipeline for us, with a well we expect to drill in Putumayo 8 and wells we expect to drill this year in 9 and 12, those are all going to flow down through the Oba. And we built the Oba, as you rightly say, to take 50,000 barrels a day in terms of the size and the abilities of the pumping stations that we have on our side. We want to move more and more to build our own production so we can drive through that. As far as other people's production is concerned, the most important thing is that the system on the Ecuadorian side can take whatever we bring down as we head towards the targets that we've set ourselves.
So have you had discussions with third parties in Colombia?
We've been approached by a number of people, but our view is we want to get our own oil down, and we also want to make sure that the system we're dealing with is solid. We don't want to start a program with somebody else and have issues on the other side of the border.
So, I mean, this is generally being sort of sensible and cautious rather than having problems by taking on other people's crude and then finding that you can't get it through.
I mean, that would be just terribly messy.
Yeah.
We see Putumayo 9, Putumayo 12 and Putumayo 8 as having really significant volume to add to the NSANs, and that's what we want to focus on.
Yeah. Just one more question about, because we're now $70 and all your finances were done at 45.
Correct.
Does that mean that you've got the scope to drill more wells during the rest of the year, or will you just sort of build up a bit of spare ammunition in the financial tank?
We want to drill as many wells. Once we've installed our new pad on the end for the NSANs, we plan to drill at least 3 wells from there, and as we go, there may be opportunities for more. In Putumayo 8, we're looking at drilling a well from an existing pad, which is quite not in Putumayo 8, which is quite an adventure for the ANH, but I think they'll get their heads around that one. And obviously in Putumayo 12 and Putumayo 9, we'll drill our first wells, and that will teach us quite a lot about the what the geology is there and whether we should be putting more wells on that pad or whether we should do something else. So it will influence us. But the civil works and the civil programs that we have in the area which we've been doing for 10 years mean that there should be reasonable tranquility as we move around doing that.
And with the 7,000 or 8,000 barrels a day that as you go through into the middle of the year, plus potentially the end sands and discoveries from there, your revenues are going to start, especially at $60 or so, are going to start to pick up quite nicely, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, obviously,
self-funding the drilling program.
But that's the idea. We're not looking to. We're not intending to go and we have no intentions at the moment of going out and raising extra money. We see very much, with the current situation, you're bringing in $300,000 a day, mass yourself. That's pretty attractive, given what wells cost us to drill in the Putumayo. I mean, we're talking about around $5 million for a well, so it's a fairly rapid return.
Yeah, and so exploration companies tend to raise equity to drill holes and debt for development. Have you ever thought about paying a dividend?
That challenge will be one we look forward to. We hope this year goes really well, and obviously we consider it every year. As the year goes through, if the oil price stays where it is, and that's a very big if, we've based our numbers on 45. We always review where we stand around our AGM in order to be able to give investors some sort of guidance as to how we see the whole year if the oil price remains reasonably stable. I'm happy to stare at the oil price around 65 and see where we're making a decent living.
Yeah.
And in the end, our shareholders are invested to see growth and to see capital return. And therefore, for businesses like ours, we know that if the day comes when you're in a position to pay a dividend, that's a big plus on AIM.
Yeah, very big plus.
Yep.
The one or two oil companies beginning to talk about it, so it's interesting.
Well, we have to be aware of it.
Yeah.
That's for certain.
You've made some quite substantial changes to your board in the last year or so, haven't you? It's obvious that you brought on some new blood and so on. So tell me what's behind all that.
Well, George Woodcock was a little matter of 78, and he has been in Colombia for 42 years. He knows the place encyclopedically, but ultimately, George, the time had come, and Victor Valdivino stepped down from our board, and we brought in Dana Cofield, who is a highly experienced Canadian who ran Grand Tierra. It's very difficult to find people who've got significant oil experience in Colombia.
Yeah.
I mean, he's quite a rare bird, and he's been very beneficial. Dana has the experience to challenge the chief executive and what he's up to. And we brought in Alex Snow, who, of course, is a very well-known city figure. We felt we needed to do that. Alex is a substantial figure in the city and well capable of carrying out a very robust debate.
Excellent. And I seem to remember about a year ago you gave an interview to the Evening Standard where you said that it was never off the blocks that you would sell the company. I would guess that my view has been that the share price at the moment doesn't fully reflect the value of what you think the company's worth.
No, that's firmly my view. I mean, we're obviously we run the business and we're biased, but I think if we pay attention to delivering serious growth in our production this year and with clear sights of growth in production for next year, we will be re-rated by the market at a higher level. After all, we're a business that don't have any bank debt and we don't have any debentures, so we're therefore well able to move forward. We're not in a market where we get plaudits for not having any debt anymore.
Yeah. We're nearly out of time, I'm afraid. I mean, 20 minutes goes very quickly, and thank you very much for your time. Why don't you give us just an idea of what the investors might expect to see over the next year or so?
Well, hopefully you'll see quite a lot of drilling success. I mean, it's much easier to find oil where we've found it already. I think the development of the N sands, the development of CPO-5, we're very confident about Platinum 9 and Platinum 12, and indeed Platinum 8. As you rightly say, our target is medium term is to get to 20,000 barrels a day. I think we're down through the Oba. I think we can see the methods to get there, and we're confident about doing so. And we believe that CPO-5 is going to show it deserves some of the plaudits that's been given by analysts.
Thank you very much indeed, Giles. Giles Clark, the chairman of Amerisur Resources, has been my guest today on Core Finance. Thank you very much for watching, and see you again next time. Thank you, Giles.
Thank you very much, Mark. Much obliged for your time.
Pleasure.